What's going on, guys? This is Ryan with the RK Outpost, and I just walked out of Spider-Man No Way Home, and I have some thoughts about it. I'll start with my initial reaction, spoiler-free, all of that good stuff, and then we'll get into a couple of spoilers. It's really going to take me a while to probably process everything about this movie, but let's just start off with the fact that this is the first MCU movie that I've seen in a theater since Endgame. Because quite frankly, the rest of what Marvel has been doing is just simply not all that interesting to me, based on the marketing, based on the things that people are saying about it, based on the things the actors themselves are saying about what the movies are supposed to be about. Hasn't been for me, as evidence it hasn't been for a lot of people based on their recent results in the box office. This movie, can't say that. This movie, I think everybody understands a lot of the big draw of it was the previous things that have happened. We know the villains that they're bringing into it. Obviously, there's rumors about that. I won't spoil it specifically, about other people that may be coming back. This movie, for me, was really, really good. It's the best MCU movie that they've made probably since Infinity War. I think that's safe to say. The best movie since Infinity War. I don't think it's necessarily that good, but I think it's the best one since then, because I think Endgame had a lot of problems. And maybe looking back, this one will have a lot of problems too. But obviously, one of the big things they did here was they gave fans exactly what they wanted. And again, not getting into spoilers right now, but they gave fans exactly what they wanted in a very rewarding, touching, emotional way. There wasn't a whole lot of woke stuff in here. You might be able to find like one or two lines from early on in the movie that people might complain about. That's about it. Other than that, no wokeness to be had. A pretty woke-free movie. In terms of the first 15 or 20 minutes, that was the worst part of the movie, in my opinion. You can see from the trailers, it picks off essentially right where Spider-Man Far From Home left off. And I feel like there's just way too much going on. I think the pacing's really off. They're trying to get to a lot of stuff really quickly. And there's just a little bit too much of the typical Spider-Man MCU humor. As you go along in the movie, not that that doesn't exist, but I think the tone gets a little more serious. You start delving into the history and the lore of all these things. And the end of the movie, there's obviously a big culmination of all these things that happen. And the end is emotional. It's kind of touching, obviously. It hits you right in the feels if you've been paying attention to Spider-Man for the last 20 years on the big screen. And then the way that they really tied it all up was, I think, surprising and a little bit low-key, and maybe a hint that we're getting back to a Spider-Man that is more like what people have wanted from Spider-Man in the MCU this entire time. And before we do get into spoilers, I just gotta say, the energy in my theater was off the charts. It really was. To the point where I was really annoyed. I get it. I know people are excited. I hate it when people are yelling and clapping and screaming during the movie, because then I can't hear certain lines and it makes me want to just turn around and tell them to shut the fuck up. But the energy was off the chains. My theater was sold out. I think most theaters for this are going to be sold out. But with that being said, let's get into spoilers. Here's your warning. 3, 2, 1. Toby and Andrew are in this movie, obviously. And the way that they're brought in, I think, works. The crowd reaction to them was incredible. And I do think that they were used in a way that was very rewarding for me. As someone, obviously, who watched the Toby movies, as someone who watched the Andrew movies, weren't such a big fan of those. And I think everyone's going to be talking about Toby from this. Andrew Garfield is really good in this. And I think that he has this moment, and they both kind of talk about where they're at in life. The thing that really brings them together is, here's another big spoiler for you. Aunt May is killed. Aunt May is killed in this movie. That was a spoiler that was out there, so a lot of people probably knew that going in, but Aunt May got killed in this, and before she did, she said, with great power comes great responsibility. That kind of sends Peter over the edge. He doesn't want to keep going. He wants to basically abandon his mission, which the mission is to take all of these people that are there from other worlds that shouldn't be there, from the multiverse, and send them back. What Peter wanted to do originally was that he wanted to help them. He wanted to help fix all these guys. He didn't want to send them back just to die, because all these people had died at the hands of Spider-Man or because of a conflict with Spider-Man. He didn't want that to happen. Instead, he was trying to fix them. It doesn't go very well, and Norman Osborn, Green Goblin, ruins everything and kills Aunt May. And when that happens, he's broken, right? He is completely broken. And that's when Toby and Andrew show up. They show up to MJ and Ned. Ned can somehow fucking use the magic stuff. I wasn't a huge fan of how they introduced that, to be quite honest with you. But Ned can now use Doctor Strange's magic portals. And so he found them and brought them there because they were here as well. And their introductions are funny, they're witty, they're good, and they're also member berries, but in a good way, I think, mostly. They are able to get to Peter and say, listen, Peter, Toby talks about how Ben died and how it was all his fault. And it was all his fault that it happened. He's never been able to get over that, and that's what's driven him. And then Andrew goes on and talks about losing Gwen. And he, like, MJ's there, he's like, she's my MJ. And he talks about the fallout of that and the person that it made him and how he doesn't want that to happen to Peter. And so that, you know, obviously inspires Peter to try to help everybody. They go into a laboratory, they start making all these cures or technology, whatever they need to do to fix all of the villains that are there. They already fixed Doc Ock, so that happened early on. They fixed Doc Ock, but try to fix Green Goblin, try to fix Jamie Foxx, Electro, try to fix Sandman, try to fix Lizard, all these people, right? And they have these little interactions. You start to learn a little bit more. You find out that Peter and MJ are still together. Toby's Peter and MJ are still together and probably have a little family. Andrew talks about, you know, how he's just really wrapped up in work and everything. Then they have this entire plan to go meet them at the Statue of Liberty, have a massive fight, but there you get a lot of interaction between those three as well. And just seeing them all there interacting with each other, it is rewarding. It is good. And is it nostalgia bait? Yes, it absolutely is. But it's stuff that I think everybody wanted to see when they heard about this movie and it being a possibility. They wanted to see these three characters back. They wanted to see them all web-slinging together, all fighting together. And they did. There were some awesome moments. There were some awesome moments when they were doing that in that fight scene. A very long fight scene. But then there's a moment where MJ falls and Tom Holland's Peter Parker goes and he's about to grab her. He gets knocked out of the way. And everybody knows that they set up the scene from Gwen Stacy in Amazing Spider-Man 2. And Andrew goes down there and grabs her. And everybody was cheering. And then they have this very emotional moment at the bottom, you know, when she's safe. And Andrew Garfield saved her. Peter saved her, unlike he was able to do with Gwen. And you can just see Andrew Garfield steals the show. I fucking heard somebody say that. I gotta agree. I think that Toby was great as well, because it was just great to see Toby. But I think Andrew Garfield was really, really good in being the emotional. I felt like he was the most emotional of all of them, so it was really good. Then it all comes down to the end where they have to fight where Peter, Tom Holland's Peter Parker, is fighting Green Goblin. He beats him and he's about to kill him. He's about to murder him in cold blood because of what he did to May. Toby goes down there and stops it. Toby goes down there and will not let him kill him. Stops him. And in the process, then Green Goblin stabs him right through the heart. Not through the heart, but he stabs him in the back. But you're supposed to think that it's in the heart. And he ends up surviving and he's fine. But if they would have done that, they'd have been fucking outraged if they had killed Tobey Maguire. But they didn't. Toby ended up being okay. But I think one of the most interesting parts of this is at the end. The multiverse starts to break open. Doctor Strange can't hold people back. They're a little bit unclear about exactly who all would be coming through, but he can't hold this together. Peter realizes the only fucking way that this can happen, the only way, is if everybody forgets who he is. Not just forget he's Spider-Man, forget him. Forget who Peter Parker is, including Doctor Strange, including MJ, including Happy, including the entire world. And he realized the ramifications. He tells Strange to do it. Strange gets emotional, which was good to see. And he says goodbye to Ned, says goodbye to MJ. Boom, they forget him. Then the very end of the movie is him walking into a coffee shop. Because he's like, I'm going to come back. I'm going to make you remember who I am. I'm going to make you know everything's going to be okay. He goes and talks and he sees Ned and MJ are happy. They're happy with everything. They don't remember, but they are happy. And he decides to walk away and let them be happy. He moves into a dump. A crappy apartment, just like Peter Parker moved into in the original Spider-Man movies. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. And he is resigned to just being the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, living in squalor. He got a GED study thing. And now we're going to go back to a Peter Parker that has no one. He doesn't. That's what Spider-Man is for so many people. That was one of the gripes of this Spider-Man in the MCU, was that he was Iron Boy. He had all this tech. He had all this stuff from Tony. He had all this help from Happy. He had all this help from all these people. Now, at the end of this, they set him up to be none of that. To be the Spider-Man that everybody's used to. The guy who's just alone, doing everything himself, and nobody knows who he is. And that would be crazy if that's the route we get for more Spider-Man in the MCU. I think that'd be very rewarding for people. Overall, I think this movie was really good. I would probably give it maybe an 8, honestly. Maybe that's a little bit too high because I'm just walking out of the theater, but they gave fans what they wanted. It wasn't woke. It wasn't full of nonsense. And the reason that is because this is a Sony movie, guys. This isn't Disney, right? It's Sony. And Sony gets 75% of the money that comes from this too. That's a big part of everything. But I'd probably rambled a lot. I have no idea if that came off well or not, but we're going to upload it because we're right out of the theater. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.
Thanks for watching, everyone, and a huge shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram? Check out the description below. You'll find links to my P.O. box and my Patreon as well. And I'll talk to you guys later.